This tutorial is intended as a supplement to previous videos on ZenBlue Image Analysis module that discuss classic image analysis. Here we will expand on ZenBlue's capabilities by introducing the workflow for machine learning in image analysis. This tutorial does not require that you are familiar with the concept of machine learning, and in fact in some ways presents a simpler workflow than that of the classical image analysis. For an understanding of what is happening under the hood, so to speak, please refer to a companion video to this titled Introduction to Machine Learning in Image Analysis. The machine learning capability in ZenBlue goes by the name of Intellesis. This Intellesis module is a paid feature of ZenBlue and extends the functionality of the software, particularly of the image analysis and 3D rendering capability. In order to find the Intellesis capabilities, we need to access the Analysis tab and navigate to the Intellesis Trainable Segmentation window. Create a new Intellesis configuration with an appropriate name. Here I will call my configuration Spines. At this point, it is not necessary to have an image open, as we will open images within the Intellesis training window. The purpose of the training stage is to identify pixels that belong to objects of interest. This is step one of a two-step process of our analysis of our images. To begin, we will click on Start Training, and we'll see the training workspace. By default, there are two classes defined. I'm going to double-click to rename the first class as Spines, and the second can remain as Background. In addition, I'm going to make a third class called Cell Body. There is an option to select the number of feature types that Intellesis will analyze during the rule creation. A higher number will provide more power to pixel classification, but will dramatically increase the time it takes to initially train the rule set by increasing the amount of processing that needs to be done. Here I'm going to select the second highest level of features, Deep Features 128, as I know from experience that this is a nice compromise between strong classification power and relative processing time. I would encourage you to experiment with this parameter in your training set, as it may not be necessary to use this deep feature training set for your sample. For the post-processing, I will initially leave this off for the purposes of illustrating the confidence map that we will see in a moment. In order to begin training, I need an image that is representative of my final dataset. To add this, I will click on Import Images, and in this case I am bringing in a single image that is a 31-slice Z-stack. I can use each slice as a sort of subset of the data for training for the analysis that will be carried out on the full stack on completion. With the training set of images loaded, I can begin to identify the different elements of my image. This is literally a paint by numbers process where I select my object color, in this case the spines, and change the size of my paintbrush to something appropriate. I will zoom in on my image to be able to accurately paint using the mouse wheel and begin to identify pixels that belong to spines and then the cell body. A few suggestions here. 1. The analysis for the rule set creation is directional, meaning that you don't want to represent only the left side of cells, for example. Second, try to keep the number of pixels represented by the various classes relatively equal. If one type of pixel is over-identified in the training, that can throw off the accuracy of the statistics. Third, pay close attention to the borders of your objects. These are the pixels that are most likely to be difficult to classify, and if you don't properly identify these pixels, you will make it even harder for Intellesis to create a clear rule set. Finally, be sure that you have enough classes to represent all the pixels in your image. If I was to leave out the cell body class here, for example, as I'm only interested in the spines, Intellesis would need to classify that region of the image either as background or spine, and as a result, the rule set for either of these classes would begin to be expanded and would not be as precise. It is not necessary to label a large portion of the image. Begin with relatively few identifying marks on clearly differentiated objects. Once you have a number of marks for each class of object, select the Train and Segment button to see the results of the rule set generated. To identify where the rule set can be improved, it is useful to display the confidence map. This represents the degree of certainty that each pixel was classified. Bright areas mean a high confidence of classification, while dark areas mean there is some uncertainty. To improve your model, I'm going to overlay our segmentation mask with the confidence mask and add some labeling to areas with low confidence in order to include more pixels of this type in the rule set. Completing the training for a second time, I am reasonably happy with the results, and I'm going to move to a second slice to check the results and refine the model further. I've sped up this portion of the video as this is an iterative process of checking several images. I can further refine the classification using the post-processing option. The conditional random field option is a feature that takes the classification a step beyond the initial rule set. The conditional random field will help to reclassify pixels with low confidence ratings by weighting the probability of their classification according to the identity of neighboring pixels. Depending on the size of your features and the nature of this training, this may improve the pixel classification. In order to complete the training, I'm going to select Finish. I now have a completed rule set for identification of my spines in this stack. How do I use this rule set? First, let's see what the rule set outputs. It is important to note once again that the pixel classification rule set we have created is not going to provide us with data. Instead, the output is simply a mask of our image that identifies objects of interest. This can be very useful in image analysis, where we will obtain our data. But first, let's take a quick tangent from our analysis to better visualize the results. If I open the Processing tab and navigate to the bottom of the menu to find the Intellesis Trainable Segmentation entry, I can generate a segmentation mask for my full stack. I will open the stack and select the rule set that I have just created, then run the rule set to obtain the output. It is important to note that it is not unreasonable for this process to take tens of minutes for a high-resolution multi-plane image with multiple classes in the rule set. The resulting output is a multi-channel binary image, with colors corresponding to the colors I used in the masks when painting my objects during the Intellesis training. A binary image means that there are no shades of gray, simply pixels with full intensity and pixels that are black. The pixels with full intensity correspond to the location of an object. As such, a 3D rendering of the resulting mask can be a very nice way to visualize the results with the Z-Stack. Going through the process of generating this rendering is beyond the scope of this tutorial, but in short, the binary mask was generated through the Processing tab as described, then the channel corresponding to the spines was extracted using the Subset feature under the Processing tab, and the result was added to the original dataset using the Add Channel capability under the Processing tab. From there, the rendering was produced in the 3D Series Export capability. All of these abilities are available in all versions of ZenBlue, even the free Zen Lite. Now that I'm happy that it appears my Intellesis rule set is working nicely, I will proceed to my image analysis, where we'll do the actual data reporting. I've created a spine analysis configuration that I will now set up for use with the classification rules that we have just trained. For this, I need an image open, so I'll open my original Z-Stack image used for training. Moving to step 3 of the analysis, I'm going to modify our settings substantially from what we used previously. Instead of segmenting from a global threshold, I'm going to change our method to Intellesis Trainable Global Segmenter. Now I have a very different interface for identifying my objects. First, I select my recently trained rule set and the appropriate channel of interest. Notice that I can set confidence thresholds for the features that are included. You will remember we did our best in the development of the rule set to maximize the confidence of each pixel classification, but here is a mechanism we can use to potentially further clean up the resulting mask. Of course, we have the ability to perform a size threshold as well as filling holes, and we can use the binary modifiers and separation functions to further define the individual spines if we wish. Use the Help function by selecting the question mark in the top right-hand corner and clicking on the feature of interest to learn more about each of these capabilities. I don't have any further refinement I want to do in this image analysis, so I'm going to skip to the finish and run the analysis on the full dataset. The processing will then be performed on each slice of the stack with the final data output including a table for the field properties that is by default the object count in the image. Keep in mind again that this analysis may take tens of minutes. Here I'm only showing you the final results. As always with the image analysis, if you'd like to export the data, it is simply a matter of selecting the table of results and creating a CSV file. With that, we've completed our tutorial on the use of Intellesis for image analysis in ZenBlue. Look for further tutorials on the concept of machine learning in an image analysis and how this can provide significant improvements over classical image analysis, as well as tips and tricks on Zen image analysis in general. Until then, enjoy your time exploring Zen.